Chapter 11, Section 2, Congruent Triangles. So here's a really important phrase to remember. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Now I know I did not write are congruent right there, but in geometry you'll learn CP, CTC. CP, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So this refers kind of back to the word corresponding we talked about with angles in section 1. Corresponding means they're in a similar position or in the same position just on a different triangle. So corresponding parts are figures that have the same size and shape and they are congruent. So in the figure below, triangle ABC, this one right here, ABC, is congruent to triangle, oh man, I apparently have a typo here. Let's try that again. Congruent to triangle, let's see, ABC, EFG. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EFG. And the marks here show you which ones go with each other. You see how line AC has one tick mark, line EG has one tick mark. So those are corresponding parts. Whereas line segment BC, or side BC and side FG, have two tick marks, so they're congruent. And then side AB and side EF are also congruent because they each have three tick marks. You can see angle A, I'll just do B. Angle B and angle F are congruent. They have one arc, so a single arc. Angle A, angle E have two marks or two arcs, so they're congruent. And then angle C and angle G. So as I kind of already pointed out, the number of arcs or the number of tick marks, I think I got an autocorrect there. I think tick doesn't have a K for this kind. I should look into that. The number of tick marks also indicate which parts of the triangle are congruent to each other. Oh, here, I was giving a preview, didn't even remember. CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So the way that triangles are named when it is stated that they are congruent indicates which sides and angles are congruent. In other words, they didn't just put these three letters in a random order. They didn't put these in a random order either. If you look, angle A, is congruent to angle E. That's why A and E are both written first. Angle B and angle F both have one arc, so they're congruent. They're both written second. Angle C and G are both congruent. They're both written last. So we'll look at that more as we look down. So even if they had not given us the picture, we could have just looked at the statement to figure out which angles are congruent and which sides are congruent. So I already talked about this with the angles, so let's go through that again. Whatever's listed first in this triangle has to be congruent to what's listed first in this triangle. So angle A is congruent to angle E. Whatever's listed second in this triangle is congruent with whatever's listed second in this triangle. So angle B is congruent to angle F. Whatever's listed last in each triangle is also congruent, angle C and angle G. So that's how, even just by looking at the way they named them when they stated that they're congruent, you could figure out which angles go with which. You can do the same thing with the sides. So the first two letters in this one, AB, the first two letters in this one, EF, those are congruent sides. AB, we put this line above it to show it's a side, EF. So you're right, this almost looks like an L that looks like an uppercase L where the top line just kind of bent over a little bit. That's how you write an angle sign. Then you put a line over top of it to name a side. And the order you put these letters in does matter. So I said AB is congruent to EF because if you look, A and E are congruent, B and F are congruent. So if I put A first when I say the side, AB, I've got to put E first when I say this side, EF. Same would be true of the second two letters listed, BC and FG. So side BC is congruent to side FG. And we also have the combo of the first and last letters. AC is congruent to EG. And I'd encourage you, if you've got your paper in front of you, pause this and just look back at the triangle and see how the way they named it really does correspond, and put everything in the order we need to know what goes with what. So let's name the corresponding parts in the congruent triangles below. Let's just start with that. Okay, so you can do it in any order you want. I'm just going to start with the angles. Well, it says start with angles, but I mean, I'm going to start with the one that just has one arc. But you don't have to do that. You could just do A, B, C because that's alphabetical, or whatever random order you wanted. But I'm just going to choose B first. So I know angle B is congruent to angle E because they both have one arc. Congruent is written with a little squiggly called a tilde and then equal sign. So it's an equal sign with a little curve right on top of it. So we've got B and E covered. Okay, A has two arcs, so does F. So angle A is congruent to angle F. C has three arcs, so angle C is congruent to the other one with three arcs, which is D. Okay, so before we do the sides, let's go ahead and fill this in up here, because now we know what A, B, and C correlate with or correspond with. The A goes with the F, so I put F first. The B goes with the E, so I put E second. And the C goes with the D, so I put D last. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle FED. So now let's go through and talk about their sides. You can do it, again, like I said, the order here doesn't matter. If you listed this pair first and this pair second, it doesn't matter. So you don't have to go in a specific order here, but you do have to make sure you list them the correct way. My opinion, I would probably just look at the arcs and say, okay, here's one that goes from arc 1 to 2, single arc, double arc. So I'd say BA is congruent. Okay, so I went to 1 to 2. Over here from 1 to 2 is E to F. So I've covered the sides that go from 1 to 2. Oh, and I'm being silly. I can also just look at the sides based on their tick marks. So I just named the ones that have the single tick mark. But one benefit of looking at the angle arcs, you do have to make sure you keep things the right order, because B corresponds to E. So if I put B first in this side, I have to put E first in this side. So now I can look at the ones with two tick marks. I've got this one here, AC, this one here. So if I call it AC, that went from the two arcs to the three arcs. So I would do FD to go along with it. Then with the three tick marks, you could pick. You could say CB or BC. Since we've just been going around this way, I'll just say CB. So C is the three arc, B is the one arc. So I need to go from three arc to one arc, so that's DE. So, you do have to be careful what order you put the letters in, but one thing I want to make sure I say, there is more than one way to correctly write this statement, or maybe there's just two, but I chose to put B first, then A. Now, once I decided to write BA, I had to, in the second one, write E and F, because that put the B with the E and the A with the F. But if you had said, well, I'd rather be alphabetical and call that side AB, that's completely fine. But then when you write the second one, you would have to say, okay, what goes with A? Well, A goes with F. So since A went first, F has to go first. Since B went first and B goes with E, I have to put E. So I would accept either one of these for this first statement. Because you can say BA is congruent to EF, or you can say AB is congruent to FE. So if you flip these two letters, you can flip these two, and it's still saying it correctly. But make sure when you're doing sides, you put the correct letters in the correct order so they're corresponding correctly. Okay, so speaking of the different orders we can put letters, I want to kind of just emphasize that with this. So if I had first told you triangle ABC was congruent to triangle HGF, then we could say triangle BAC. So notice how they put it in different order. Same letters, same triangle. They just put these in different order. Okay, so let's look. This said A, B, C. This one flipped it. They flipped the A and the B. So to make this equivalent to this one, just like they flipped the first two letters in this one, we'll need to flip the first two letters in this one and say G, H, F. Because in both of them, A and H belong together. And here they were both first. Here they're both in the middle. B and G belong together. Here they're both in the middle. Here they're both first. So no matter which order I wrote this first one in, I had to make sure the ones over here stayed in the correct order so they were aligned with the corresponding angles and sides of the other triangle. Okay, number 3. Are these two triangles congruent? Let's figure that out first. Okay, well, look at the angles. See a single arc and single arc, double arc, triple arc. So we're good there. The angles are all the same. So as I look from angle 1 to angle 2, I'm 9.5 centimeters. Angle 1 to angle 2, 9.5 centimeters. So that's a check. Angle 2 to 3, 6 centimeters. Angle 2 to 3, 6 centimeters. Check, check. 3 to 1 is 8 centimeters. 3 to 1 is 8 centimeters. So everything aligns. So what they're wanting us to do now that we've confirmed it's congruent is to do what we did up in number 1. I know these take a lot of time. I won't ask you to do a whole lot of them, but it's really important to make sure you understand the parts that go together. So I'll just say triangle ABC first. So triangle ABC is congruent. Okay, A is the one arc, so I put P first in this triangle. So one arc, one arc. B is 2 arcs, Q is 2 arcs. C is 3 arcs, R is 3 arcs. So I would say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle PQR. Now for the angles, just go in order. Put the first one A, put the first one P. In fact, let me stop here. I would encourage you to pause the video and try to finish this on your own. Try to write all the angles that are congruent, just like we did up here, and all the sides are congruent, and then press play and see if you got it right. So for angle B, that's written second, goes to angle Q because that's written second. Angle C, that's written third. That's congruent to angle R because it's also written third. So AP, BQ, CR. Now for the sides, I'll say first two letters. First two letters. Second two letters. Second two letters. First and last letter. First and last letter. So that labels the triangles as congruent and all their corresponding parts. Oh, okay, last one. Are these two triangles congruent? Okay, well, they don't actually say anything about the angles. But if you remember, I did say that equilateral, no, that doesn't correspond. Silly me, trying to connect something that doesn't work. We don't know the angles, but let's just look at the sides. I can't really look at like arc 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, but I can say, okay, let's look at the smallest one. So as I look at this triangle, there's the smallest side. So I look at this triangle, there's the smallest side. So right away we see things don't work. 3 is not congruent to 4, as you likely know. So we get to just say, no, they're not congruent, and don't have to write anything else.